David, at least on mine, I cannot hear you.
Yeah,
Apologies
I
for
cannot hear you.
Oh, that was Feliciano. Yes, I cannot hear you. We unfortunately cannot hear David Moreno.
I think we just wait, and then when they give us the floor, we just start.
That sounds good, Feliciano. I understand that Amy has a very tight window of time.
It's okay, don't worry. But we're fine. It'll work out.
Great, thanks, Amy.
Can you hear me, Monica?
Yes,
Can you
I
hear
can
me?
hear you.
Yes. Okay. David was starting already, so I'll give him this mic, and we can start with Amy. Give us 1 second.
Perfect, thank you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was saying, welcome everybody, bienvenidos a todos y a todas. I'm going to speak in English for this one, and I guess people here, you all brought your headsets. It's a hybrid session, so we will have people here in the room that they're arriving. I'm not sure if you are being able to see them, but they're arriving. They're going to have lunch here, and we're going to have around 200 people connected online. Interpretation in both in-person and online will be available. Those in person, I hope you brought your headset, as I said before. Those who are connected online, please use the globe in the bottom right part of your screen to select your language. Les recuerdo a aquellos que están conectados online que pueden tener interpretación en español, portugués e inglés en el botón de abajo a la derecha. So let me welcome you to the presentation of this multi-stakeholder compendium project titled Protecting Strategic Sectors from Cyber Attacks, Multi-Stakeholder Perspectives, that will be launched soon. To open this ceremony, this session, we'll have Amy Hogan-Burney, General Manager of Cyber Policy and Protection at Microsoft. Amy?
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here today. First, I want to just give a little bit of context for the compendium project. We see constant technological innovation and the adoption of digital tools across sectors. And these really introduce new opportunities. But as we all know, they also pose new risks for society, for companies, and for governments. The increased use of internet-facing devices of all kinds as a component of accelerating digital transformation has greatly increased the digital attack surface. There are measures that can be taken to tackle online threats. And according to the recently released Microsoft Digital Defense Report, which is actually where I am today presenting on that as well, basic cyber hygiene practices such as implementing multi-factor authentication, applying zero trust principles, using modern anti-malware, and keeping software up to date and protecting data can prevent 99% of attacks. And really clearly adopting these easy to implement cyber hygiene practices is a key step. But really, in light of that context, we are delighted here today to announce the upcoming launch of this compendium report. It's titled Protecting Strategic Sectors from Cyber Attacks, a multi-stakeholder perspective. And I want to highlight that multi-stakeholder perspective because I think that's really important. And during the 2023 OAS Cybersecurity Symposium, which was jointly organized by the Brazilian Center for International Relations and Microsoft, this is really a pioneering collaboration in the pursuit of enhancing cybersecurity. And I think importantly within healthcare and finance and energy sectors. And really, this draws on the collective expertise of the broader multi-stakeholder community of experts, of contributors across government and industry. And very importantly, also civil society, who all share their insights and experiences throughout the series of workshops. The compendium really provides an in-depth analysis of best practices, of recommendations on cyber hygiene. And it underscores the critical importance of safeguarding the key sectors against these cyber threats. And importantly, I think much like the Microsoft Digital Defense Report, which I'm also talking about today, it provides actionable kind of operational takeaways for stakeholders. So in closing, this comprehensive resource is a testament to the commitment of CEBRI and Microsoft to fostering a secure digital landscape across critical infrastructures, both in Brazil and beyond. And I'm really happy that you had me here today to announce this.
Thank you so much, Amy, for your words. Now we're going to give the floor to Feliciano Guimaraes, Director of Projects at CEBRI. Feliciano, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here as well. I would like to thank Microsoft for this project and the fruitful partnership with CEBRI, especially Microsoft's government affairs teams represented here by Monica Ruiz, who is a great friend of ours, and Marcio Gonçalves, and also Ms. Amy Hogan-Burney from Microsoft for being here in the session with us. I would like also to thank the cybersecurity program at the OAS, the Organization of American States, represented by Ken N. Barrett and David Moreno, for hosting this event. I wish I was there in Bahamas with you and here in cold São Paulo, but fine. I think as Ms. Amy Hogan-Burney presented, this has been a great experience for both Microsoft, but especially for CEBRI, and the discussion of cybersecurity and cyber hygiene in Brazil. CEBRI has for those who don't know CEBRI very well, CEBRI is Brazil's #1 think tank in international relations. It stands for Brazilian Center for International Relations. We are composed of more or less 300 fellows and 13 working groups within our organizations. And we are now one of the most important products or byproducts of this partnership with Microsoft is the recent creation of the tech working group within CEBRI. So initially, we started this project based on our defense and security working group. So that was the beginning of the partnership. So that partnership became so important. The issues involved in the discussions became so evident that CEBRI needed to actually invest more into the digital world, the digital transformation in general. So now we are launching a new tech working group within CEBRI. That is going to be focused on cybersecurity, cyber hygiene, but also artificial intelligence and many other issues of digital transformation. So in this sense, CEBRI will become one of the new stakeholders when it comes to cybersecurity and cyber hygiene in Brazil. I hope CEBRI can help the Brazilian government, but also many other sectors of the Brazilian economy in discussions and policy making when it comes to cyber hygiene and cybersecurity. So it has been a great experience for us. The compendium is really, really well done. I hope everyone eventually have access to our position papers. There is a list of recommendations. What I like most about the compendium is that it starts with a diagnosis of the problem and then makes a list of recommendations based on the experts that we invited for all these discussions. Focus on the 3 sectors of Brazil that we discussed initially, which are energy, finance, and the health sectors. But those recommendations can be used in many other sectors of Brazilian economy. So again, thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you, Microsoft and the OAS for this event. And I hope we have a fruitful discussion today. Thank you. Back to you, David.
Thank you, Feliciano. And I hope now you can hear me with this microphone. Can someone? Yeah, okay, that's great. So thank you for your words. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing with us some of the content of the compendium that we're all looking forward to read. Now we're gonna give the floor. As I said, this is a hybrid event. We have I have with me Leonardo Ferreira, Director of Privacy and Information Security at the Digital Government Secretariat of the Brazil's Ministry of Economy. But before that, we would like to welcome Vanessa Padua. I would like to confirm that she's online. Okay, I'm seeing her now. Welcome, Vanessa. Vanessa is a Director, Cybersecurity for Latin America in the Caribbean at Microsoft, and she's going to give us brief insights from some of the key points and recommendations from the compendium. Vanessa, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for this amazing opportunity to be here with all of you and to discuss about cybersecurity, which is so important and critical topic around the world. So in terms of what we have been doing in the industry, we are helping different industries to improve not just the cyber resilience, to become prepared when attacks happen, but especially to protect when it's required. And this compendium is so important because, as mentioned before by Feliciano, diagnosis and then recommendations. So look at where we are and then how we can improve all the resilience in terms of cybersecurity. And it's so important to focus on the basis, and back to the basis, as we always mention with different industries, which is maybe the hygiene, as we discussed in the beginning of the event, because cyber hygiene is critical. And the main reason behind this is because the lack of this basic, which is update operation systems and applications to guarantee that they have the must updated in terms of configuration and patched application. And the other thing is we need to protect identity. We need to guarantee that every identity in our environment has at least MFA, multi-factor authentication. So this is what we call basics, because if you do the basics, we can at least create a kind of resistance and improve our environment. So that's one of the key actions that we are working across industries worldwide, to guarantee that different industries are doing the basics, are doing the patch application, are working in multi-factor authentication, and especially work in a collaboration environment. In this collaboration environment, it's important cross-industry, which means to have government, which means to have a financial industry, health sector, energy, different industries working together, because security is a team sport, which means that nowadays, the attacks are not just focused on a specific industries. They are focused on different industries. And the reason behind this is because there is an ROI. They are looking for this ROI. And that is so important that we protect as a company and that we protect as an industry and cross-industry. So this collaboration is so important. And I think this compendium is critical for this area, because then we have different views, as Feliciano mentioned, so energy, finance, and health sector, but it is, in general, the same level of security that we have in these three industries will be the same that we need in other industries as well, in education, in public sector, among other industries around the world. So it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. We'll discuss more in a few minutes. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Vanessa. And now, since I introduced him before, and before going back to Feliciano, I'm going to give the floor to Leonardo Ferreira. He's the Director of Privacy and Information Security at the Digital Government Secretariat of the Brazil's Ministry of Economy. He's going to speak in Portuguese, so for those who are here, you get ready with your headsets. And the ones who are online, you can click the language that you would like to listen in the globe on the bottom right of your screen. Leonardo, the floor is yours.
We cannot hear him. Maybe he should use the same microphone that you had. No, I think he has to use the same microphone that you had.
Ok.
Now we can hear you. Thank you.
Gostaria de agradecer à Organização de Estados Americanos, agradecer a todos e todas por este convite ao governo brasileiro. Como reflexões iniciais, acredito que vale trazer hoje o caso do governo digital do Brasil. Nós passamos desde o ano de 2022 a considerar o governo digital do Brasil como uma infraestrutura crítica. Hoje nós contamos com mais de 4.100 serviços totalmente digitais e a plataforma é acessada por mais de 153 milhões de brasileiros em bases diárias. A partir dessa reflexão, nós passamos a discutir, né, um conceito de área prioritária e consideramos o governo digital do Brasil como um setor estratégico. E, como tal, nós desenvolvemos um programa de privacidade e segurança da informação voltado, customizado para o governo digital do Brasil. Eu vou discorrer mais nas próximas perguntas. Muito obrigado a todos e todas.
I want to make sure that this works. Thank you so much, Leonardo. It's great to know all the different initiatives that the government is carrying out, and I'm pretty sure that this is going to contribute to have to improve the cybersecurity capabilities of Brazil. Now, to finalize this first round of reflections on key recommendations, we're going to have again Feliciano Guimaraes.
Thank you. I'm going to just review some of the key or the main takeaways from the compendium for the audience too, and the takeaways that I think are very important for us. I think it has been some of them have been mentioned before, and I think we should emphasize them. I think the first one is that cybersecurity and cyber hygienes are a continuous journey for companies and governments alike. Right? You can never stop investing and preparing your employees and the population for cybersecurity and cyber hygiene. The second is that it's both a personal and an organizational responsibility. It starts from the individual, goes all the way up to the government, passing through all the types of organizations in society. And the third takeaway that I think is very important, and we have someone from the government here, I think it's which is how difficult it is to implement both at the policy, both at the government and the company levels, cybersecurity measures. I think we have been following Brazil, how difficult it has been the implementation of the General Personal Protection Law that was issued in 2020, and the difficulties of the National Data Protection Authority to implement and to make it known, this law throughout Brazil. It has been clear that there is no top-down implementation of a law such as this. It doesn't work from the government to the people. It has to be a law that involves multiple stakeholders, and it has a horizontal perspective of implementation. Well, it has a couple of weeks ago, the security cabinet of the government, which means it's similar to what a national security secretary would be of the Brazilian government, issued a new project to create in Brazil the national cybersecurity policy and the National Cybersecurity Agency that has been called AN Cyber so far. So this is something that is going to change the landscape of cybersecurity and cyber hygiene in Brazil in the near future. Another takeaway that I think is important from the compendium is that international, and I think that's very, very dear for CEBRI, is that international norms in cybersecurity are a vital piece of the puzzle. So in 2021, for example, the many states in the United Nations at the open-ended working group, the OEWG, agreed on a framework for responsible state behavior in cyberspace based on norms developed by the United Nations group of government experts. So this global agreement sets the obligations for responsible state behavior is a substantial step forward building international cybersecurity. So one of the reasons we created this tech working group at CEBRI is because we want to follow closely international norms concerning cybersecurity and cyber hygiene in general. I think this is something that we have to have a program at CEBRI that follows this closely. And then if you look at the compendium on the key sectors that we analyze, I think there are some key takeaways for two sectors that I think are very important in Brazil: health and energy. I'm a political scientist. I'm not an expert on cybersecurity and cyber hygiene. So, but what I learned from these discussions, that a key aspect in Brazil is that we have always to assess the advantages and disadvantages of having centralized versus decentralized systems in Brazil. You have, in one hand, health sector that is completely decentralized. Every hospital has its own cybersecurity system. And then you have the energy sector in Brazil that is completely centralized, right? So depending how much centralized or decentralized a sector is, then you have different strategy concerning cybersecurity and cyber hygiene. For example, in the area of health, cyber hygiene practices are severely lacking or absent altogether in these low maturity sectors such as health, both in private and public hospital. There is an enormous fragmentation. So each hospital has to protect itself from using different tools, and it has to train its own employees using also different tools. So it's very difficult for, it's easier for cyber attacks, right? Because a malicious individual can attack a specific hospital, but on the other hand, it's positive for the system because this individual can only attack 1 or 2 hospitals. There is no centralized system. So risk management needs to be a core approach to preventing, detecting, and responding to cybersecurity risk, and embrace all organizational levels and hierarchies in each health company, right? The sector also needs to implement regular, systematic, and continuous cybersecurity training within hospitals, and also within the national health system in Brazil. For those who don't know, Brazil has a national health system similar to that of the United Kingdom and Germany and other countries. Although the system is centralized, the hospitals are independent. So each hospital has to have its own policy in terms of cybersecurity, and even public hospitals, right? So this is also a challenge, right? In the energy sector is a completely different scenario. So because of the Brazil specific Brazil energy necessities of the 1970s, Brazil created a very much centralized energy system, right? So we have in Brazil Brazil's National Electric Power Agency, Agência Nacional de Energia Elétrica, that regulates the electric power market in Brazil. This agency has established a multidisciplinary and a cross-sector committee that covers strategic sectors and review incidents once a month. And this body has made it possible to issue cybersecurity guidelines, including indicators of compromise, release ongoing cyber-related assessments, and share updated incidents of best practice. We have also the national centralized system, right? The whole system is controlled by one office in Brasilia. So if there is some energy problem in the northeast of Brazil or in the Amazon, they can divert energy from one sector to the other with this specific office. So here the challenges are different because by being so much centralized, they can spread guidelines and implement more easily, both with the public and the private companies, cybersecurity and cyber hygiene best practices. Right? The downsides of that is that once there is a hacker assault or some malicious individual or company tries to attack the system, then it can affect the entire country. So far, we haven't had any attacks like that, but we have seen in other countries, in East Europe, for example, that this is a very problematic, a very serious problem. So I think these are the main takeaways of the compendiums. Once again, I invite everyone from the audience to go to the website of CEBRI and also the Microsoft to download the compendium, read about the best practice. And we welcome everyone in Brazil who wants to discuss with us at CEBRI the issues of cybersecurity and cyber hygiene. Thank you very much for being again for this event, and I hope to have a fruitful conversation. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Feliciano. And I was writing down some different concepts, horizontal perspective, which has to do with multi-stakeholder approach, that it's a concept that we've been hearing again and again during this symposium. And it's very curious when you spoke about, I mean, Brazil is a big, very big country, and how the two different sectors like health and energy are organized. When we try to help countries to develop their systems to protect critical infrastructure, yeah, we don't sometimes I was going to say that we don't realize, but yes, we do realize that the different sectors are different, very, very different from one to another. So the thing, though, the rules that would apply to, as you said, the health sector might not apply to energy sector because of the specific characteristics of them. So I think I found very insightful your words. I had here Leonardo nodding, so he might I don't know if he wants to add something to it, or I would like to ask him, how can basic cyber hygiene practice be effectively promoted and implemented at both individual and organizational levels to decrease cyber risk?
Sim, perfeito. Posso trazer, na mesma perspectiva que o Feliciano trouxe logo no início da conversa, que é bem importante destacar que o governo digital do Brasil, nós temos um programa bem estruturado na parte de cibersegurança, onde nós endereçamos, né, dentro da perspectiva de trabalhar como minimizar o cyberrisco dentro das nossas organizações. Nós temos hoje um programa, como eu dizia, bem estruturado, onde nós olhamos com dois objetivos muito claros: o aumento da maturidade das nossas organizações, né, e o aumento da sua resiliência. Hoje, o governo digital do Brasil é composto de mais de 250 organizações públicas que provêm os mais de 4.000 serviços para o cidadão, para uma base de clientes de mais de 152 milhões de pessoas. Então, o nosso programa, para atingir esse objetivo de maturidade e resiliência, nós estruturamos, né, de uma maneira bastante prática, como falou a palestrante que abriu o evento da Microsoft. Temos ações bastante concretas. Temos 5 linhas de defesa bem estruturadas. Sendo a primeira linha de defesa, Feliciano, a gente olha para os aspectos de governança. Então, hoje existe uma norma, uma portaria, que torna obrigatória a observância do Programa de Privacidade e Segurança da Informação do Governo Federal. Então, existe uma norma para esses 250 órgãos, aonde a gente endereça para dar um exemplo. Na sequência, nós desenvolvemos um framework de privacidade e segurança da informação, que conta com mais de 310 medidas, num conjunto de 32 controles, fortemente baseado na ISO 27000, NIST e CIS-8, né, como referências, né, e CIS-Privacy. Então, nós temos um framework, e um pouco nessa linha do que você comentou, na nossa terceira linha de defesa, os aspectos de maturidade, nós fizemos um planejamento para um período de 4 anos e começamos exatamente pela cyberhigiene. Então, hoje, quando nós temos 250 unidades de governo, e aí você pode imaginar o nosso Banco Central do Brasil, o Ministério da Educação, Saúde, todas as universidades, institutos federais do Brasil, são mais de 100 universidades no Brasil, nós começamos por um conjunto, nos primeiros 6 meses, de 41 medidas, né, muito voltadas para a questão, nessa terceira linha de defesa, para essa questão específica da cyberhigiene. Então, a gente olha muito para questões como backup, gestão de controle de acesso, gestão de vulnerabilidade, inventário de hardware e software, assim como a parte de logs, né, auditorias, no caso do pós-mortem, né. Então, nessa terceira linha, a parte de maturidade, nós temos 2 indicadores que nós acompanhamos ao longo dos 4 anos, que é o IPRIV, de privacidade, a parte de proteção de dados pessoais, e a parte do ISEG, que é bastante voltado para os aspectos de segurança cibernética. Caminhando aqui para o final dessa primeira pergunta, nós ainda temos mais 2 torres, a torre de tecnologia, onde ficamos com toda a operação, existe um CSIRT de resposta a incidente do governo digital, voltado para essas 250 unidades, e contratações centralizadas de ferramentas e tecnologia para essas unidades. E, por fim, e não menos importante, temos a torre de pessoas, onde temos todo o nosso programa de conscientização, treinamento, educação e a parte de conscientização, que vou falar um pouco mais na próxima pergunta. Muito obrigado.
Thank you very much, Leonardo. I was as you were speaking, I was taking some notes. A couple of concepts you talk about, and we spoke about here yesterday about implementation and enforcement, and the way Brazil seems to be addressing these challenges is through regulation, through having a strong government framework. And another thing that is very important, and it is important when we put a policy in place, we put a strategy in place, it is very important to know if it is working. So these 4 years periods where you are constantly monitoring and evaluating what you are doing, they are very important. So you arrive to this at the end of this period in 4 years and see what is this working, it is not. So it is very important to assess what is working, what is not, to be able to pivot, to be flexible, and I think those are very important remarks. I would like to go back online and ask Vanessa, how can the multi-stakeholder community be leveraged to improve cyber resilience in strategic sector? And what are the essential components of effective information sharing and building trust?
Thank you for this great question. And before I answer this question, I would like first to say that congrats. I really admire what Leonardo is doing, to improve Brazil, big picture in terms of resilience, in terms of privacy, in terms of cybersecurity. So congrats, Leonardo, for all the work that you are doing. That's been hard and in a very structured way. So congrats. It will be a pleasure to follow you and everything that you are doing. And going to the question and how we can improve the way that we can not just share, but we can improve our resilience as well. One thing that is so important, first we need to understand that attacks today, they are not focused more in just one industry, as I mentioned in the beginning. And why this is important to know? Because in general, the attacks that are targeting, for example, health system, they are targeting finance sector as well, which means that we need to share indicators of compromise between different industries. That's one of the critical ways to improve not just our reaction when facing an attack, but to better prepare ourselves. So in order to do so, it's important to create, and we can create a community based on kind of open source technology like MISP. MISP is an important tool, and not just tool, it's an important framework that different industry can use to share IOCs. And the good thing about this is that then one industry can really understand what's going on in other industries, and then start to be better prepared their environment to face the attacks that are coming. So this type of communication and knowledge sharing, it's so critically important because, as I said in the beginning, if you continue to do this, thinking now cybersecurity is just important for example, for health sector. So, and then I will not prioritize retail, then I will not prioritize other education, for example, in other industries. That's not the reality on this. And the other thing that we need to thinking about it is there is no one fits all size. That's one thing. And the other is thinking about different type of companies and size of companies, small companies, medium companies, big companies. If an attack arrives and in a small company, and this small company is critical to the business continuity of the big company. So for example, a hospital that needs other type of services outside, and they need to work with this small company, then all their, for example, exams and other services that they need to provide can suffer an impact. Wow, this is important. That's why we need to thinking about cybersecurity in different type of industries. And cyber hygiene must be in every level of this type of company, no matter the size of the company. So that's important to thinking about this open framework like MISP and how we can, in different industries, share not just best practice, but share IOCs as well. And there are some industries that start to do this, I think 2 years ago, in fact, and they are having great results after implementing this. But we need to expand. We need to make this broader. We need to do this as a country level, if it's possible, because that's the way that we as an ecosystem, we as a community, we as a country can really protect ourselves, can really protect our company, and can really protect our citizens. So exchange IOCs is one of the things that we need to thinking about how we can improve it, thinking about different industries. And in order to do so, it's really important to create channels of communication so we can start not just to discuss what's going on, but how we can better protect our companies. And in order to do so, it's so important to thinking with different mindsets, bring diversity to this conversation, because every person has different ways to react when a problem, to resolve a problem. So that's why it's so important to bring different type of lens and mindset, so we can improve the way to resolve our issues. We need to work as a community, and we need to work as a team. That's the first thing that we need to thinking about it. As Leonardo mentioned before, when talking about cybersecurity, people, it's so critical, it's important, it's the base of everything that we need to thinking about it. Because every cyber attack, they are looking into vulnerabilities in some sense, but they are looking for some people vulnerability, which means that, okay, if I click on this link and it's a phishing attack, for example, why I click on it? What type of attack can I direct to Vanessa or any other person that she or he will be willing to thinking and click on it? So we need to empower our citizens. We need to empower the people so they can be prepared to face the attacks and the challenge that we are facing today. So I'll pause here, but to the main point of this question, it's so important to create this framework, thinking about how we can share not just IOCs, but experience across industries. We as a Microsoft, we are doing this through our DCU, among others areas that we have in our company, in helping different companies to improve their resilience, sharing best practices and sharing IOCs. So in doing so, we can improve not just our companies, but we can improve, again, our citizens, we can improve our ecosystem. As Leonardo mentioned, there are so critical companies around the world thinking as technology as the base of every piece on their strategy. So let's think about it and have work together to make this happen.
We cannot hear you. There is one microphone that's not working. Now we can.
This one is good?
Yeah.
At some point, I doubted. I had two microphones. I didn't remember which one worked, and I chose the wrong one. I had a 50% chance of being wrong, and I was wrong. I'm sorry. I was saying co-share responsibility is key in cybersecurity. I'm afraid we're running out of time. I think we have one more question for Feliciano, and I think we're going to have to stop here. The question is, what steps should healthcare, finance, and energy organizations take to develop robust incident response plans to account for sector-specific vulnerabilities?
Thank you for the question. I also would like to congratulate Leonardo. So the Brazilian government is all here inside my cell phone, gov.br. I lived for 3 years in the United States, and it was a mess to get my documentation, my personal documents in US. When I moved back to Brazil, everything was already here, my driver's license, my ID, my taxes and everything. It took me a while to learn how to use the app, but this digital government in Brazil is getting better and better. I know that many other countries in the world are doing that as well in Latin America. So I congratulate the Brazilian government for that. I think it's a great tool of equality in Brazil. So you give access to the people, and then you need to be protected. I think by Leonardo's explanation, we saw all the layers of protection that the government does. I think trying to respond, I mean, as I said before, I'm not a specialist. Vanessa is a great specialist, and she just mentioned almost everything that I was going to mention. So I think the compendium analyzes 3 sectors, right? The health, energy, and one in between, which is finance. In Brazil, for those who don't know, the finance sector in Brazil is more or less centralized, but also a little bit fragmented. So it's right in between the two. There are not many banks in Brazil, as compared in the past. When I was a kid, for example, there were hundreds of banks. Now there in Brazil, we have like a handful of banks. I would say no more than 20 big banks. There are actually only 5 banks that control 90% of the assets in Brazil. So you don't have their ultra centralized system like the energy sector with the national operator and the national agents, and then you don't have, on the other hand, a super decentralized system, which is the health sector. So you have something in between. Vanessa mentioned that one of the key aspects about health, cybersecurity and cyber hygiene among sectors, across sectors in any country, but especially in Brazil, is sharing knowledge. So I think both energy sector in Brazil and health should learn from the finance sector, because they are more or less well protected, and the likelihood of them suffering cyber attacks is very, very high because they deal with money, so they're all the time there. I sometimes get really irritated with the system in Brazil, because just to compare to the United States, in America, you only need at least in my bank in America, you only needed like a 4-digit password to go into your banking account. In Brazil, you need 8 passwords, 3. There are so many layers to access your banking account. In the beginning, I was irritated. But now, after learning about cyber hygiene, I realized that there was a sharing between the people and the companies. So somehow the companies, the banks in Brazil, taught the people how to be more protective of themselves. So there is that goes back to the multi-stakeholder approach that you mentioned, David, that you guys are discussing here. So these big companies, such as banks, they have a role to play, which is to educate the elderly, educate the young on their needs of cybersecurity. And I think the finance sector in Brazil did a very good job. So I looked at from my parents, they know much more about cyber hygiene today because their own banks demanded them to learn about it, right? Because otherwise they would not be able to access the bank. I think the health sector in Brazil has something to learn from that, right? So it doesn't, and the energy sector has to learn as well, because once you have a system that is more or less open, like the finance sector, have more stakeholders, more big companies, then it's less likely that once you have a big attack, then you can this attack will affect everyone. I think the energy sector in Brazil, in one way, is very efficient because it can distribute energy in Brazil very efficiently, but on the other hand, is more susceptible to attacks exactly because it's too much centralized. So I think to have a balanced system will be the best design for a sector in Brazil nowadays. So thank you very much. I give the word back to you, and thank you again.
Thank you, Feliciano. Of course, a balance is always good, and I think it's a very good strategy. I'm sorry we ran out of time. Just want to thank our esteemed panelists for participating in this session. I would just like to say that according to Microsoft's Digital Defense Report from last year, the vast majority of successful cyber attacks, potentially up to 98% of them, could have been prevented by implementing basic cybersecurity hygiene practices. Thank you all for being here, and for those who are presently here at the OIS Symposium in Bahamas, please proceed to the plenary room. The rest of you who are connected online, thank you very much.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Monica, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Vanessa.
Bye, Feliciano. Bye, Vanessa. Bye, all. Thank you, David, Mariana, everyone.
Thank you.
No, para ver, es una locura.
Pay attention. I haven't heard anything about Brazil.
Uh-huh.
So, uno fun.